Dave Simon and his co-hosts are completing the remaining finishing touches for tonight's episode. If you are watching the replay, you can skip to the 4-minute and 54-second mark to get to Dave's intro. While you are waiting, watching live, take a look at the news and articles about pro wrestling and MMA from The Authority, the Ringside Report Network. Our website is at ringsidereport.net. That's ringsidereport.net.
Please wait. Hold on. Keep waiting. Almost done. 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 Subscriber is speaking at the moment. Subscriber is speaking at the moment. Subscriber is speaking at the moment. Please wait. Hold on. Keep waiting.
I'm not impressed by your performance.
Almost done. Please wait. Hold on. Keep waiting. Almost done. Please wait. Hold on. Keep waiting. Almost done. Please wait. Hold on. Keep waiting. Almost done. Subscriber is speaking at the moment. Subscriber is speaking at the moment. Subscriber is speaking at the moment.
Welcome to today's broadcast from the Ringside Report Network. We are a viewer and listener-supported creative team. We would really appreciate it if you became a recurring supporter at membership.ringsidereport.net. While you are waiting, watching live, take a look at the news and articles about pro wrestling and MMA, and while there, check out our exclusive merch, including great jiu-jitsu gear from the Ringside Report Network. Our website is at ringsidereport.net. It's ringsidereport.net.
Subscriber is speaking at the moment.
Indeed. It's Ringside Report MMA. We're previewing UFC Kansas City. We got Jon Jones news. We got Conor McGregor news. We're talking about it. Let's do it.
Let's go!
Yeah. Whoa. Hey.
Hey, Toto, what's up?
Toto.
No place like home. I
Toto.
don't get it.
Wizard of Oz.
There's no place like home? Yeah, bud.
We talking about the
In
Oz
Kansas. The Aussie, man.
here. The Oz.
Ozzy Osbourne. Hey, he's touring
The Oz
again. I
cutter.
was shocked when I heard that. Ozzy
Who?
Osbourne is touring again. Ozzy,
Really?
man.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know how he's going to do it, man.
The train
you know
is
what
still
the fuck are
crazy.
you guys saying sometimes?
Yeah, good impression.
Crazy.
Not really.
Not bad. It was good, man. Come on, man. Don't be harsh.
Do more.
Go on, David Simon. I'm going Simon. The UFC. Trump.
Whoa. Took a turn at the end there. Wasn't expecting that.
Well, that's what he would say. You just got to hear like certain words, and that's it, man.
Yeah, it was a lot of Sharon, all that. Remember that?
Sharon.
Sharon. What a guy. I don't do an Aussie impression. AJ, not bad. He grew on me
Not bad,
over
eh?
time. We're going to talk about MMA. We got
Like a
MMA
mole.
things to talk about, right?
Or warts. Yeah, tell me, bud. A lot of action in the UFC this week.
Yeah.
Well, sort of.
I met a friend of yours yesterday at jiu-jitsu.
What? Uh-oh.
Now I'm trying to remember his name. I was going to... It'll come to me. Remind me
At
after
10th
the
Planet?
show. Yeah, he was at 10th Planet.
Good,
He was
man.
a
I'm happy.
BTT guy. He said he knew you.
Yeah.
Fred was there too.
Young guy or old guy?
Say a younger guy. Younger than you for sure.
Québécois or is he English?
No, Anglophone guy.
Ooh, it's very good.
I want to say Brad, but I don't think that's right.
Brad.
Doesn't
What,
sound
Brad
right.
Pitt?
No.
I don't think I know any
His
Brads,
name
dude.
is escaping me. Anyways, I'll see him again. Or I'll...
Well, tell him I say hi, whoever it is. Did he ever roll with me? Did he say?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Anyhow, we've got MMA to get to here tonight, AJ. The UFC is in Kansas City this weekend. Were you aware of that?
Yeah. That's what I said. The whole total thing and click your heels. Is it 3 times or 4 times?
Because we're not in Kansas anymore.
You get it?
There
You just got it
go.
now? I thought you got it from the beginning, man.
Nope. Lost on
Yeah.
me. Went right over my head.
AJ's good, man.
AJ's making Wizard of Oz references. Interesting.
The old one, not the new one, dude.
I didn't know there
I'm
was a
like
new one.
old school. Yeah, there's something.
I've
yeah,
only seen the old
something-
one, the original.
Yeah. Something that came out with this.
AJ's
new
the
witch or
guy.
Whatever.
AJ is the guy who, when they remake a new movie, and they maybe change the certain roles to people that look different than the original role, AJ gets very mad and takes it very personally. I just am unaware of the movies and I don't care at all. Even if
I do.
would
I
see
take it seriously, man.
I'm just not
It's
into
like I used to
remakes, really.
Listen, man, I used to flip out when they used to change James Bond. Like I used to flip out. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Not this guy. Are you serious? Roger Moore. Remember Roger Moore? Him and Sean Connery were my favorite.
Yeah.
The rest, there was a couple of good ones, but some of them, man, Jesus.
James Bond you have a problem with, too.
I do.
It's
That
not
was
just
my
when they
biggest
make
one.
some movies it's all dudes in the 80s and then now it's all ladies. I know that really upsets you and a lot of people like you. But the James Bond I didn't expect. I didn't think you would go in that direction. My favorite James
Oh, yeah.
Bond is Pierce Brosnan
which one?
because he was GoldenEye and that was a good video game in the
Ah.
64.
He wasn't
Brother.
bad. He wasn't bad.
Pierce
But not the
Brosnan.
greatest, man.
That's really... I did never watch James Bond. I hear the current James Bond is pretty good. People like him. What's the guy's name?
What?
I think he's Daniel Craig. People like him. Is he
Oh,
still
Daniel
James
Craig.
Bond?
Yeah, I could see. Okay.
I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
who
true.
is James Bond. Is it like a lady now? James Bond is a
Oh
woman.
no, you can't do that shit. Don't even go there, Dave. Please.
Look,
Don't
see how
ruin the
mad he
show for
gets?
me.
You see how mad? I tell a joke and he's like instantly upset. The blood is boiling.
Are you joking? I hope so, man.
Yes, I'm joking. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
need some
follow these
Rolaids
things.
after
I
this.
don't care.
Thank God.
Movies.
Look,
Who
even Johnny.
who watches movies anymore? You know?
Johnny.
Johnny does.
Myself.
Johnny
Listen, man,
gives
who
you
doesn't
movie
watch?
reviews.
You're on Netflix all the time. If you're not watching like WrestleMania on Netflix or like the UFC soon to be, you're watching everything, man. Like it's Netflix all the time.
So
Johnny saw the Return to
you made
Oz.
an
That's what it
interesting.
was.
You said something there, AJ, that I want to touch on.
Uh-oh.
The UFC
Okay.
Netflix. Okay, UFC is looking
Yeah.
for a new home. The ESPN deal is up, and it doesn't appear as though the UFC is going to stay with ESPN. There seem to have been some issues that popped up over the years that caused some, disagreements. Dana has publicly said things kind of like, well, ESPN wanted this and I didn't want this. Like, Dana has talked about disagreements in the public, which makes me think that things aren't really that great behind closed doors. So I don't think ESPN is going to be the home for the UFC. I don't know if the UFC needs one home. Why couldn't some things be on ESPN? Like fight nights are on ESPN and then pay-per-views are on Netflix or something, You do different deals for your different events. Could do that. Historically, though, for the UFC, they've had one channel that they've been on, right? It was like they signed with one kind of broadcaster. They had Spike at first, and then they signed the Fox deal, which was massive at the time. It was like, oh my God, the UFC's finally mainstream. Fox, they're going to do shows on Fox. Remember they had the big Cain Velasquez Jr. Dos Santos fight for the first Fox show? It was a big deal. And then after Fox, they did this deal, right, with ESPN. And now the deal is up. It's been several years, and they're looking for a new deal. And people are thinking Netflix. People are thinking Amazon Prime. People are thinking all sorts of different streaming services where the UFC might wind up. I kind of like the idea of UFC maybe doing it themselves. They already have UFC Fight Pass. Why not just say, well, it's more expensive now, but everything's on Fight Pass? I don't know if that would work. Kind of like what the WWE Network was at one point. I don't know where the UFC is going to go. I think Netflix is a place that makes sense. WWE and the UFC are owned by the same people, TKO, and WWE's on Netflix. So there's a relationship there, at least in the corporate sense, like the higher ups at TKO are obviously involved in deals with Netflix. I'm not sure where it's going to go. And honestly, I think it's interesting, this negotiation period for the UFC, because I think it's the first time in their history where they enter a negotiation period for a rights deal in a position that's not really that strong. It's not a position of strength, whereas when they entered the Fox negotiations, when they entered the ESPN negotiations, business was booming. And the stars were there, and everybody wanted a piece of the UFC. But nowadays, it's a good product. It's the only game in town for MMA, but MMA just isn't as hot as it once was. It's not as new as it once was. And it is a great sport. Obviously, I think it's the best sport. But the UFC is in a place right now where they don't have a lot of big names to draw. And that's what these companies are looking for when they're going to sign the UFC to a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar rights deal. So they got to be looking at it as, what is the value here? Who do we have in the next 5 to 10 years that we're going to be able to put on our streaming platforms or TV channel or what have you that's going to draw people in and make money for us?
Yeah,
and
but
we know
that's a tough one, man.
And I don't know what the UFC is going to present. Like, that's the thing. The UFC at these meetings, they have to go, well, we have this guy and this guy and this guy, and they draw this, this, and this. So if you sign us, you're going to be getting this and probably even bigger because we got bigger things lined up for them. But who are those people that they're presenting? Like, who are the big prizes that they can say, we will offer, you will get this fight. This Conor McGregor will fight, and you will benefit from this. Jon Jones will fight, and you will benefit from this. Who are they going to? Paddy Pimblett will fight, and you will benefit from this? Paddy Pimblett's not a sure thing. He beat Michael Chandler.
That was his last fight.
He beat Chandler. He looked great. That was a huge thing for him. But Chandler, a little bit over the hill. Like, how does Paddy Pimblett really do against the elite of the elite in the division? Don't know. But, he's a guy that's a potential star for the UFC, but he hasn't reached those heights yet. So the UFC can't really say, well, he's main eventing pay-per-views and doing this and that, and look at all this money we're making. It's all hypothetical with Paddy Pimblett. With a lot of guys, with Sean O'Malley, who they're trying to make into a big star. Like, you got to look at the UFC as who are the stars of tomorrow, who are the stars over the next year or two that are going to draw in a major way. And we watch this promotion each and every week. We do this show each and every week. And, we're noticing a trend of, wow, the star power is kind of rough. And we're looking at some of these pay-per-views that they put out there, and you go, oof, they don't really have a lot of big names on these things. That next pay-per-view they have that's in Montreal, it's rough. It's rough. So, I don't know what they're offering. And then I don't know what UFC is looking for as far as the financials to the deal. You got to expect they're looking for something in the billions. WWE got, $5 billion for 10 years from Netflix? They got to look at that deal and see it as a possibility.
It's the same group, right, Dave?
Yeah, but it's not. I don't think it's the same. It's not the same product. And UFC can't offer what the WWE can. The WWE can tell you, like, you bring us on, The Rock will appear several times. John Cena will appear several times and do things and be in big spots. The WWE is built different because, as Vince McMahon once said, the UFC will never work because they can't control who their stars are. He said that a long time ago about the UFC, and at this point, he has a point. Because just being the best, just being the world champion, doesn't necessarily bring in money and people that want to watch you. And at this point in the game, a lot of divisions are very, very close. The parity is, it's there. And it's like the difference between the champion and the number one contender is marginal, which makes it, and then the number 3 guy is also right there. So their talent level is so high right now. The sport is so far evolved at this point that it's hard for somebody to stay on top as champion and really build that name and legacy and star power because everybody's so good that you really could lose any given night. Look at Alex Pereira. Look at Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. Magomed beat Alex Pereira in a decision. But I don't think anyone that thinks Magomed even won the fight by decision would say that Magomed is so much better than Alex Pereira. Is he better than him?
I thought Pereira won.
Well, there you go. There's even that. So it's that close where you go, well, who's better? Nobody. So who's the best? Who's making it's hard to stay on top, and staying on top is what makes you a star. Like GSP sold pay-per-views because he was a champion for a long time, was winning fights, and he was charismatic. Conor McGregor sold pay-per-views at first because he was smashing everybody, winning championships in 2 weight classes, and talking a lot of trash. Jon Jones is a huge draw because he's been world champion for like 12 years. So staying on top, I think, used to be a little easier for certain guys. But now the game has caught up so much. The sport has evolved so much that it's hard to be so far ahead of the division for a long period of time. Islam Makhachev is unbelievable. The fact that he's been able to stay ahead of the game for this long, and he hasn't even been champ for that long, but he's defended it several times now, to the point where he may be the greatest lightweight champion of all time. And the lightweight division is very tough to stay on top of. But Islam, Islam Makhachev, as great as he is, as excited as we are about him, a fight with Arman Sarukian will not draw. And the reason for that is not Arman's fault. He's the challenger. It's Islam. It's just not a personality that the mainstream will jump on and want to see fight. The hardcore people that know about the UFC already, that are probably going to check out most pay-per-views, are going to watch Islam Makhachev. But that's not who you want to draw in. You want to draw in the people that never watch the UFC, that'll come up to you and they'll be like, hey, are you watching that Islam guy? And it's like, yeah, why are you watching the Islam guy? You want guys to, like, I remember when Conor McGregor would fight and people that would never talk to you about the UFC would come up to you and be like, oh, do you see Conor did this and that? It's like, yeah, you're watching this now? That's what you want. But that's not happening with Islam. It's not happening with who else is on top that's smashing everybody? Nobody, right?
Ian Machado is right there. This is a guy who's coming in on Saturday night,
dude,
who is like considered
lost his
the
last
future
fight.
star.
He lost his last fight, and the most popular thing, the most play he ever got in media or MMA media was about his wife. Be real.
True. But let's be honest, this is a guy that is considered like the future and a future star.
Maybe, but he just lost his last fight, so
yeah. But it was a good fight, and it was closer than most people thought. But listen, Dave, I agree with you, and just to follow up on your points, you said a lot of things that are absolutely true. The thing that is kind of a plus and a negative is the fact that the champs are just like 1 point away. They could go to a decision, and it's that one round, that last minute, the last 10 seconds that can decide who's the champion. And that's what I think with Pereira fight. I thought he won it. But, from what you're looking at is that negative perspective, which you're absolutely right, because people want to see champs. Like I'm going to take another sport. You want to see like the Yankees. They win the World Series, man, and you expect them to win year after year after year. And they come around and they kind of do it. The Montreal Canadiens were there, so they build up that kind of like star power where you're like they're invincible, and you need to have invincible people in sports. In the UFC, because it's evolved so much, these guys are all like grandmasters. Right? They're dynasties, but the thing is, in this sport, it's human chess, and the thing is that they're all grandmasters. They're only one move away from being a champion, and to me, I look at it and I say this is the most incredible sport because of the way it evolved only 23, 24 years ago. It's not that long ago, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People that are
Yeah.
watching the sport weren't even born. But the thing is that, you know, the UFC is at a point where they have stars and they could carry it through. I think Netflix would make a great move by putting them on for their pay-per-view shows.
But AJ, you say they have stars, right? Let me give you an example. Like Sean O'Malley, okay?
Yeah, he's not my. Look, I like Sean O'Malley, but he's not my favorite star.
That's not the point. That's not the point. The point is you recognize he's a draw for the UFC. He's somebody that they are trying to market as a star. And the fact that he's getting a title shot after losing to Merab in his last fight, when Merab had to go out, defend his title against Umar, and then come back and now is fighting Sean O'Malley again, shows you that, you know, the UFC is favorable to Sean O'Malley. Not everybody gets that treatment in the UFC, where you're a former champion who defended the belt once in a hand-picked fight for you against Marlon Vera, who was not the number one contender at the time. Like, that was a gimme title defense for Sean O'Malley. They gave it to him, and then they made him fight Merab in his second title defense. He lost, clearly. Then they gave him a year off, probably told him, like, we're going to make Merab fight again, and then you'll get him in, like, a year, so prepare yourself. I mean, I don't know if they told him, but come on. I think he knew.
Look, there's a couple.
But here's the thing, AJ. Here's the thing. They want him to be a guy for them that will make money, right? They see him as a star. But if he loses to Merab again, you can't sell that to Netflix. We got this guy, Sean O'Malley. He's really charismatic. Okay, are you going to main event pay-per-views with him? Well, we can't really. Well, why not? Well, because he's not a champion. Well, why not? Because he lost twice to Merab Dvalishvili. Well, do you think Merab is marketable? Kind of, but not like O'Malley.
He doesn't have he doesn't have
He doesn't have the online presence and all the stuff, and O'Malley and the hair and the flash and all this stuff, right? So if O'Malley loses again, what is the UFC selling to Netflix? Which goes back to the point of they can't control who their stars are. They can't control who their champions are because it's a shoot. It's a real fight. Whereas the WWE can go to a company like Netflix and be like, yeah, we got John Cena. Yeah, he's super old, but he's going to win the championship. He's going to main event our biggest show of the year.
Ooh.
And he's going to win the championship. And then he's going to be champion on 27 shows after WrestleMania for the year. You're going to get 27 John Cena appearances. And he's going to be champion. And he's going to wrestle lots. And he's going to talk. And that's a guarantee. He'll be in the main event. He'll be doing things. Barring injury, he'll do that. The UFC can't guarantee that. They can't go to Netflix and be like, we got this guy, Sean O'Malley. We're going to have him fight Merab. He's going to win the championship. Then he's going to defend it 6 months later against Umar. He's going to spin kick him, beat him, and then we're going to do this big celebration, and then he's going to fight again, and it's going to be great, and we're going to make tons of money. They can't guarantee that. They can't guarantee much. Which is why, at this point in the game, because it's so tough, it's hard to really make a star. They try, but
it's hard, man.
You can't
You're
predict
right.
what's going to happen in a fight. Things happen.
But you're right. But I think like the future fighters that are coming are going to have a little bit more pizzazz than some of them that have it now. Like Islam, the most pizzazz coming out of like if it's not Dagestan, it's Kazakhstan or one of the places is like a guy like Shavkat. He comes out and he kind of has this persona of like, the heel, in wrestling. He comes out, he's like he's I think
know.
so.
I think
but
he's pretty cool.
Something.
I think most people like Shavkat.
Cool.
And like,
yeah, but you can like.
But I don't think he's drawing in the mainstream. Shavkat Rakhmonov, who doesn't speak English, what's that gonna do? He's a great
Look,
fighter.
he's still
Like, this is the thing,
Yeah.
AJ, that you need to, like, kind of see out of the bubble sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? We're too deep in the bubble. Shavkat is exciting to us. But as, like, an actual
I get your
star, like for a real star for the UFC, Shavkat Rakhmonov? I don't think so.
I'm telling you. No,
Big pay-per-views,
hear me out.
drawing like Alex Pereira was. Pereira was a big draw for them, and of course they're going to give him an immediate rematch against Magomed for the belt because they have to. If he loses again, they'll probably give him a trilogy fight because why not? Because money.
Yeah, which could happen. But going back to what you were saying, my second point, like earlier, and going back to Shavkat, is this. They have a lot of potential stars to real fight fans. And I agree with you that outside of that bubble, people are not going to talk about Shavkat like they did with Conor. They're not going to talk about like Khabib and like they did with like George, even if they weren't like people.
Khabib was only a star after he fought Conor. No one cared about Khabib before he fought Conor. The only reason anyone cared about Khabib, also, not to mention the only reason anybody outside of the UFC bubble ever cared about Nate Diaz is because they beat Conor McGregor when Conor was really hot and famous and everybody was watching him. The only reason Khabib and Nate got famous was because they beat Conor McGregor. And you know this.
No, absolutely. But that's what I'm trying to tell you is the buzz was created. The only thing that the UFC needs to do now is that they got to get, like, I'm telling you, like,
Conor.
If I had my way, I'd say they got to get Conor, but every fighter should have some kind of manager, like in pro wrestling, that if you can't speak like a freaking, like a Shavkat or a freaking Islam or whatever, you get your manager to talk trash for you. And then and you build up.
No,
I know, dude. I know it sounds crazy, but you got to build it up.
That's
because
not
the
the
future
way.
of the fighters are going to be most fighters out of North America that don't speak English, coming from South Korea or coming from Kazakhstan or coming from Dagestan.
Yeah.
These are where most of these fighters are coming, and they're all killers, including Brazil. Brazil's making a bounce back. There's a lot of killers, and one of them is coming up is Carlos Prates fighting Garry, who's half Brazilian. These guys are killers.
That's a
great
great
what I'm saying?
fight.
But the thing is, I'm saying is that the thing with the UFC, it's hard to make a long-term commitment to fighters because most fighters come into their prime at 30 and they stick around most probably till about 35 before things start going south. So you got a 5-year window. And I agree with you. It's hard to really push. But that's what I'm trying to say is that the marketing team has to start pushing more of the characters or something about them to either turn them into the heel or the good guy in the UFC. They need to have that. They need to have that Tony Ferguson, who's from Dagestan. They need to have that
Tony
Ferreira.
Ferguson from Dagestan?
No, I'm just saying his type of character who's Dagestanian.
Okay, I thought you were telling me that Tony Ferguson is from Dagestan. I was like, what?
What I'm trying to say is that imagine having a Dagestanian Conor type who comes in and trash talks, and you really need that.
I think they have one, and his name is Khamzat Chimaev. He just doesn't fight ever.
That's the problem, and you're right. He is that
this
guy.
This guy could be a megastar for the
package.
UFC, and we've been waiting for his star to rise, and it just hasn't happened for many different reasons, some of which are unclear. Is he fighting Dricus or what, dude?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but you're right. Well, that's the thing with the UFC.
Or is it going to be Caio Borraio? That guy's come on, man. That guy's
he's good. Caio. I love Caio, man.
Caio Borraio.
Yeah, but that's another good example where we know him. I think he's fantastic. He's part of like the Brazilian fighting nerds.
Fight nerds is the best.
They are the best. They're 24-0, man.
I'm joining
These guys
Fight Nerds. I'm joining Fight Nerds, bro. I'm joining the team.
But I think this is what the UFC needs to do for the future.
They're all killers.
They got to start. Yeah, but you see what I'm trying to say is that they're 24-0, the Brazilian fighting nerds. So we got to go back to old school where we used to see like teams against teams per se. So we got to start like getting rivalry. If it's not going to be the individual, it's going to be based on that team to hype it up. Like,
Well,
talks trash between the fighting nerds of Brazil against the
let's do that.
Dagestanian like lions.
Let's do
That's
that,
what you gotta
AJ.
do,
Let's
man.
hype it up. Let's get hyped
Yep.
about the fight nerds.
Who's the
because I
best?
don't think we talk enough about the fight nerds. These Brazilian
24
guys
and 0.
who
24
wear
and 0, man.
the fake glasses. They all wear them. You got Caio Borraio, who's making a name for himself at middleweight. He was the original fight nerd. And he's got this whole team with him. Borraio undefeated in the UFC, 17-1. He's like the number 6 guy at middleweight right now, but he's on his way to getting a title shot. He is right there. Just beat Jared Cannonier in his last fight. Knocked out Paul Craig before that. Caio Borraio. And now on Saturday, AJ, we got another guy, Carlos Prates. Prates, 31 years old from Brazil, 21-6. Another one of these fight nerds. I think I picked the fight nerds on the last UFC card, and I did well with the fight nerds. The fight nerds don't lose.
Yep.
You got to go with the
they're
nerds.
24 and
Who
0,
was the
man.
nerd on the last one? Wasn't there a fight
last
nerd on the
one?
last one? Maybe. I'm
Yeah, there
mistaken.
was what's his name? Hold on a sec.
I thought
the
there was
last
a fight
nerd
nerd on
was-
the last UFC card, but I'm not.
Hold on a
seeing-
sec. Hold on a sec.
Jean
who was the
Silva.
fight nerd?
Jean Silva.
Yeah, Jean Silva, man.
nerds.
He was
He knocked
good,
the
man.
hell out of Bryce. Oh, he submitted Bryce Mitchell, right? That was on the last one.
Yeah.
Jean Silva, he's crushing people at featherweight. 16-2, 28 years old, also undefeated in the UFC. I mean, the fight nerds
The
are all
beast.
over the place. Borraio, Silva, Prates. I love it.
You're right, man. But
Dude,
that's what I'm saying is that like
They're unstoppable.
it's got to go.
They're unstoppable.
Well,
And
that's what
right
I'm
now,
saying.
AJ, let me tell you something. Carlos Prates plus 100 underdog to Ian Machado
No.
Garry. Plus 100 the underdog at bet99.com. Ian Garry minus 130 the favorite. Ian Garry is very good. Well-rounded, dangerous in many aspects, good grappler, solid stand-up, 27 years old, 15-1. And that one loss was in his last fight, a unanimous decision, a tough fight, a close fight against the great Shavkat Rakhmonov in what was called, back in December, a UFC welterweight title eliminator. Except Shavkat won, and he's not getting the next title shot. So what's up with that?
He got
Anyways,
eliminated.
He didn't get eliminated. He won the Eliminator.
Yeah, but he's not fighting, so he might
It's
have
like
been
winning
like,
the elimination
put on the
chamber, man.
shelf.
You get the shot at Mania, brother. He should have got the shot at Mania, but they took Shavkat's shot away. I think Shavkat got hurt, but whatever. I'm going to say he got screwed.
Hey, Antoinette. I hope Antoinette is not upset at me still. We got to make it up to her.
Shout out Antoinette.
Leafs go. I'm gonna cheer for the Leafs for Antoinette.
Ian Machado Garry is very good, but I'm just so impressed with Carlos Prates. He's been crushing it in the UFC. He's been knocking
Beast, man.
everybody out. He was on Dana White's Contender Series in 2023, won with a second-round knockout. And since then, he's won 4 straight, all by knockout, and has not seen the third round at all. He knocked out Neil Magny in his last fight with a shot that seemed to just graze his temple and knocked Magny out cold, flat on his face. Carlos Prates has scary power. He's calm, cool, collected in the octagon. Very calm. Like, just relaxed at home. This Fight Nerds team is on another level right now, and Prates has crazy power. No wind-up, no tells, just explosive, just boom. And it's just not coming from crazy muscle. It's not coming from, like this big. It's just every shot hits you like a truck. I think he's made of rocks. I don't know what's going on. but the way he hits people and they fall down is eerie. Like, his power is something else. So I like Carlos Prates in this fight, and I think he's going to knock out Ian Machado Garry. I think he's going to not only beat him, I think he's going to put him down, because he's on this roll right now where I think he's like a little bit unstoppable. And I think this fight here for Carlos Prates, if he does what I think he's going to do, is going to be a big eye-opener for people where we go, oh, okay, we have a new contender on our hands. Another one of the fight nerds. Caio Borralho is a legit contender at 185. John Silva is a legit contender now at 145. And Carlos Prates is now a legit, like, if he beats Ian Machado Garry, he is definitely a legit contender at 170. The fight nerds are all over the map in the UFC. Are they the new, Team Khabib?
Yeah.
Like you talked about team versus team. Imagine Team Khabib versus the fight nerds in some sort of tournament.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's how you hype it up, man. You go back to, like, almost like the old school ways by bringing like a modern twist to it. Like, you got to build it up. You got to build out that hype, because unfortunately, the Gastanians are like the best, but they don't have the best charisma. They don't have the best, like, counter power.
Fight nerds are fun.
They
got a gimmick.
They are, and that's the thing. But that's what it comes down to. It's the gimmick, man. You got to find that gimmick. Look, man, this guy, but he's no gimmick. He's the real deal. This Carlos, man, he has unbelievable power. The guy has laser striking. He lands about 57% of his shots, significant strikes are on the mark, 57%. And they are 57% that are on target, man, that do damage. He's finished all of his last 5. The guy is going out not to just win by decision. He's going out to hunt and kill. And that's the thing with Garry, because if Garry doesn't, if Garry doesn't come out aggressive and try to overwhelm this guy, it's going to be a rough night, because, I'm going back and forth on this all week. I'm like, Garry is like, he's a beast. He's 15-1. He had a really good fight with a Shafkat where they thought Shafkat was just going to break him down and eat him up. And it went, man. It was toe-to-toe. It went the distance, and that's the difference. Ian Garry can take a beating and go the distance. So it gets really tough. So if he's not able to be aggressive right off the bat, Carlos has this power behind him that is sick, dangerous, and he is there. And if he wins, like I said, he's going to be 25-0 for the fighting nerds. They want that 25, man. And you know what? They're making a mark in the sport. There's a reason for that. Their training camps, they're really a good oiled team, man.
Did you make a pick?
They're nerds. It's hard, man. I was going back and forth, Dave, but you know what? You
give me a pick.
I think Garry is probably what the UFC wants, probably to win so that they have star power. But wait a sec. They'll still get star power if Carlos wins because of the fighting nerd team. So it's a win-win for the UFC.
I didn't ask you if you think the UFC will win. I asked you, who do you think will win the fight? I told you I think Carlos Prates will win the fight by knockout. I would like a similar style prediction from you, and I would like you to be as succinct as possible with it.
Listen, bud, this is a hard one. You know that too. You're picking Carlos.
What succinct means?
Succinct? Wasn't it that the group, in sync? Listen, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going with you on this.
I think you're joking with me. I think you do know what it means, but you choose to ignore.
Listen. I'm going with you on this. I'm going with Carlos by a slight edge. If he's able to withstand the flurry of Ian, because I'm pretty sure he's going to come out hard, he's going to be able to win this fight by knockout. I think it's going to be a crazy night, and I think the UFC wins. Either fighter wins, the UFC wins.
You definitely don't know what succinct means, because you were not succinct in that answer, AJ.
Listen,
You don't know
man.
what that
I know
means? It means, like,
in
you know,
sync.
straight
I
to the
know. I
point.
know the. I know what
Come
New
on.
Kids on the Block. I know the rest of them. Oh, by the way, I insulted one of them. Remember when I went to go
Yeah,
meet them?
yeah,
Who was
okay.
it?
We
Was
don't
it in
need to
sync?
hear the AJ
Yeah.
stories from 1992. Like, we're good. You were 40
Listen,
years
man,
old.
it's
It was
funny, man.
1992.
Who
You
is
were
the guy,
rude.
by the way, the blonde guy? I always forget the band's name, the blonde guy. I thought he was from New Kids on the Block. Remember he was famous? The blonde guy, Nick something.
Nick
Who
Carter
was that
from
guy?
the
when
Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, Nick Carter. Yeah, that,
Oh,
that
yeah.
asshole, man. So
Everybody
I
loves
called
Nick
him.
Carter.
I thought he was New Kids on the Block. Why get upset, man? Chill out. I'm like, hey, aren't you the guy from like New Kids on the Block? He's like, yeah, you got the wrong band. I'm like, wait, okay, whatever. Sorry, bud. I was there actually because I was part of the Starlight Foundation. I was
Now we're
helping a
getting the
child that was
goddamn
sick and meet
story
the
again,
band.
AJ. Damn it, man. I can't believe you.
Listen, man, I got to
got
throw it
me.
in so people know what I'm talking about, man. I was doing a good deed for a little girl. So I got the band wrong. I thought it was New Kids on the Block, dude. Back then, they were all the same to me. And the guy, like, you know, he's like itsy fit for no reason. Is he still alive?
Nick Carter's still alive. His brother died, tragically.
Well, did he?
Yeah. Johnny North
Nick,
in the chat
you know
says,
what?
this is an old story. Antoinette in the chat says, yes, and then puts some cool emojis down. Been a member for 51 months. Thank you, Antoinette, for supporting the channel.
Antoinette.
Shout out to Antoinette and
Let me give the
Leor. I
love
see
to
you, Leor.
Antoinette. She's mad at me,
Leor.
but we're still friends. And yep.
Leor wondered what AJ thought about Logan Paul at WrestleMania. What did you think about Logan Paul at WrestleMania before we do our parlays for the UFC fight
I
night?
thought he was great, man. You know me. I'm a big fan of Logan Paul.
Didn't
He was
offend you
getting
that he
dissed
beat
from
a
the
guy
big-
named AJ?
No, I mean, you know, he's not the real AJ, so it's
Cheated
okay.
to win, too.
I think the kick to the nuts is more of a cheat, if in my opinion. I think John Cena deserves like a disqualification. I think it was a cheap shot. And you know what? That's the nature of the game, man. I'm like, I wasn't happy. You know me. I was like really upset, man.
You
I was
were mad
upset. I'm
about
like,
John
what a
Cena winning?
Yeah, man. I'm a Cody Rhodes fan. And he got like shortchanged there.
Yeah.
Kick to the nuts, bro. Come on.
What are you going to do?
John Cena.
I hope
The
I
hair
see John
transplant and
Cena.
everything.
I got tickets to SmackDown. SmackDown's coming to the Bell Center. I bought tickets yesterday. And I hope John Cena's there, brother. That'd be cool.
Oof, I'd rather see Cody, man. Real wrestler.
I've seen Cody. I've seen Cena. I've seen them all. I've seen them all. I saw the Macho
Look.
Man.
Oh yeah,
I did.
that's the best right
I
there.
saw Brett get screwed. I've seen everything.
Did you ever see
I
Jake
saw
the
Jerry
Snake?
Lawler die. I've seen everything.
No.
I mean, he had a
Jake
heart
the
attack
Snake?
right in front of me.
What?
He was like, I think, clinically dead for a few minutes. Yeah, he's alive now. But
Are you serious? There we go.
Yeah.
See, stories are the best, man. I gave an old story. You gave an old story, man.
Jerry Lawler
Did you give him
had a
CPR?
massive heart attack at a Monday Night Raw in Montreal at the Bell Center, and I remember looking over and seeing him slumped over and going, that's not part of the show. What's going on with the King? And then they wheeled him out, and he clearly, like, they wheeled him right in front of me. He was on a stretcher. He looked like he was dead. And then the rest of the show I don't really remember because the whole building was like, holy shit, did we just see Jerry Lawler die in front of us? That was horrible because we didn't know. And he had a massive heart attack. He survived, but he recovered here. So that was
So
that
what
was
you're
something.
telling
I
me
saw
it's
that.
because of you pointing, man, that they look that way?
No, Michael Cole was there, and he was like, something's wrong with this guy. He's snoring next to me. He just passed out or
That's
whatever.
not good, man.
That was
That's
bad.
not. That's like a jujitsu
It was
move.
terrifying, man. Because it was like,
Sure, man.
I mean, it was just like eerie, you know? It's like, did we just witness Jerry the King Lawler die in front of our eyes? It's not something you want to see.
Scary, man.
You know what I mean?
Oh, you don't want to see that, man. Yeah, for sure, man.
So it kind of put a damper on the
Absolutely.
rest of the wrestling show. Like, they continued the show. They're still doing wrestling matches, and you're like trying to watch it and enjoy it. But at the same time, the back of your mind's like, is he dead? Like, what happened? You know?
Did they give news or an update during the show or anything?
I don't remember. I feel like we didn't get an update until after the show was over, maybe? I'm not sure. Johnny would have a better memory about that than I would, but I don't remember. I feel like we only got the news after the show was over that he was, like, gonna live. I don't recall.
Scary, man.
But I remember seeing him slumped over, and then the stretcher just like wheeled right by me as they went to the back, going like, holy shit, that guy looked like he's dead. They were like all really like you could see the panic on everybody's face. You could tell it was serious. It was bad. Ugh. So, yeah, I've seen a lot of weird stuff happen at pro wrestling shows, AJ. I've seen it all.
Dark side of the ring, man.
Hopefully, yeah, they could do a dark side of the ring on that night. Because that was crazy. He wrestled a match. Then he was on commentary, wrestled, went back to commentary, had a heart attack.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. Johnny says he was
What?
outside talking to Sly when this happened. Sylvan! Yeah, but did we find out that Jerry was, like, gonna be okay or not? I mean, still alive? Did we know he was not dead while Raw was still going on, or did we only find out like that night, like later that night or the next day? I don't remember. It's a long time ago. I don't know if John remembers. John's always my historian on these things. Catch John and I tomorrow night. We will recap the Raw after WrestleMania and everything going on in the WWE. The Rock doing damage control for not showing up at WrestleMania. Went on the Pat McAfee show and was like, "Oh, it's not my fault. I was never supposed to be at Mania anyways. I was only at the Chamber because they weren't selling tickets because Triple H is a total doofus and he doesn't know how to run his company and he's a Rudy Poo candy ass." And Ari Emanuel called me personally and said, "Please, Rock, please. We're not selling tickets for the Sky Dome. We need you to show up." So I did, and then we needed to do an angle, so I did the thing with Cena, but I was never supposed to be part of it. It's all about John. I'm being selfless. Very funny.
Whoa.
Very funny words from The Rock this week. Very funny that, like, everybody's mad that The Rock didn't show up at Mania or the Raw after Mania, and then he's like, "Let me go on Pat McAfee's show." Probably called up Pat McAfee and was like, "Can I come on your show?" And he's like, "Of course, you're The Rock." And then The Rock goes and says, "Well, I was never supposed to do it, and, it's not my fault, and people shouldn't be mad at me. They should be mad at Triple H and the WWE. It's their fault." And people were like, "We see through this, what you're doing here. It's very obvious, Dwayne. You couldn't have shown up at WrestleMania for 2 minutes? Couldn't have been there?
Yeah.
How come you can't be there? What are you doing?"
It only made your bread and butter, man.
I mean,
Let's be honest, man.
It's just a little... It's just like, okay, if he didn't do the interview afterwards, I think it would have been more acceptable for him to have not been at WrestleMania. Because you could wonder, maybe he's doing a movie. Maybe he's really busy and he couldn't get out of whatever.
Maybe he's sick.
The fact that he goes on the Pat McAfee
excuse.
show like the next day and was like, "Oh, I was never supposed to be there. It's not my fault." It's kind of like, seems like maybe you could have shown up.
That's not cool, dude. I'll be honest. From a PR perspective, man, whoever advised them to do that failed. Because it's better to be outside and people can make whatever assumption. And he could have been, "Listen, I was sick, whatever. I just couldn't make it."
Yeah.
But, backtracking, it's like...
It's just,
the
the damage control
cool,
afterwards
man.
is odd from The Rock,
Yeah,
It
it's
wasn't my
weird,
fault.
man.
Anyways.
Yeah. What were you
Antoinette
doing, man?
says she
Plucking
met
your hair?
Andre the Giant when she was 7 years old. And then she body slammed
Yep.
him and hit the big leg drop, brother. Took him out. Took him out. I know.
Antoinette
She
has met
didn't-
everybody, man.
That wasn't part of her story, but I assume the rest of it. She met
Listen,
Andre,
Antoinette has
and then
met
I assume she
everybody,
body
man.
slammed him straight to hell. Okay. Let's do
She's
the
a
parlays,
bigger
AJ.
celebrity than Ringside. You know that, Antoinette. She hangs around with Pitbull. She hangs around with all kinds of like celebrities. Antoinette's famous, man.
I hang around with Fred Garcia.
That's true.
Pretty
We do,
good.
and we saw. And let's talk about Fred Garcia.
He's
Gotta
not
give
here.
him a lot of kudos. He's not here tonight. He's
Why is he not here?
recovering from his ADCC fight. He had two very heavy fights. The guy is recovering. So kudos to Fred, a member of our show that's fighting now as we speak not in real time, but he fought on Saturday. He was at one of the top competitions in the world, and he did very well, man. He represented Ringside Report. Unfortunately, we weren't there because, just like The Rock, we got committed to some things, and Fred's fight was too late for us to
Yeah,
be there.
Fred's
But
fight
we
was
gave him a lot of
like
support.
at 7:00 at night, and I thought it was going to be earlier in the day, and we had to watch WrestleMania, so it was,
It was a bit difficult, but the thing is that there was a lot of support for Fred. He had a
Yeah.
lot of like corner people. He had a lot of like well wishers, including ourselves, man. And look, man, he fought well. Regardless, he did it, man. That's all that counts. He
Yep.
did it.
Yeah.
We got to get him a Freddy. We call him Fantastic Freddy, so that should be his jiu-jitsu name from now on. Like Fantastic Freddy.
He's great.
FF.
I was on the mats with Fred Monday morning and last night. So it was great to...
He's a beast.
Yeah, he's the man. He's great. He's great. Rolled with Fred, this week a couple of times. Always great.
Nice.
Fred's great. We're super, super proud of Fred for competing at the ADCC last weekend, and he's not done. He's going to be competing more. I think he got the bug now.
Bug.
He's like, he wants to compete more. So Fred, we're going to continue following Fred's fighting travels. And then maybe we'll start competing too. Fred's doing it.
I've competed a lot in the past, man.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
Right.
I got to get...
You should do it again, though.
I competed quite a bit in the past. I will. I'll do it in like the old man's division, like at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Fred had corner men. Fred had people. John, don't worry. He had coaches.
Yeah,
he had better than us.
Oh, he had. Yeah. Well, I don't know about better than us, but I'll just tell you is that he had like really good coaches, and he had a lot of support.
In his corner. So that's
yeah. If he had Lewis, it's a different story.
Good. Yeah. Lewis is great.
And listen, talk about corner men. Dave didn't want to talk about this, but coming to UFC Montreal, we have the great George St. Pierre who's going to be cornering one of the fighters, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be Eamon Zahabi. Am I right,
let
Dave?
me do parlays here for the UFC Kansas City.
Talk about it.
Well, I mean,
what do you hate George for, bro?
I don't. I just don't think it's news that he's going to be in a corner. I don't really care.
I think it's news.
Okay.
I want to people want to know that George is going to be there, and he's not only going to be like watching it, he's going to be cornering, dude.
Great.
Kind of like Gretzky when he was coaching. Which
I've seen George corner people before.
Yeah, and it didn't go so well either.
Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't, depending on the fight.
Yeah.
Anyways, Carlos Prates and Zhang Mingyang. These are my fights.
Oof. Wow. Really?
Okay.
That's it?
Yes. I don't think
I'm
Anthony Smith is going to win.
Buddy.
What?
I thought you were going to go with Chikadis.
No, I don't think Chikadis is going to win either, but I'm not betting on the other guy. I'm going with Prates plus 100. Zhang Mingyang minus 500 to beat Anthony Smith. It's 20 that'll get you 48 over at bet99.com. That's the Team Dave parlay, keeping it real simple this weekend. And so we have Ian Machado Garry, Carlos Prates in the main event this weekend in Kansas City. Then you got Anthony Smith and Zhang Mingyang in the co-main event. Then you got Giga Chikadze and David Onama at featherweight. Michel Pereira against Abus Magomedov. A middleweight fight, Randy Brown and Nicholas Dalby. And Andre Muniz against Ikram Aliskerov, another middleweight fight to round out the main card this weekend in Kansas City. And then you got a bunch of people that you've never, ever heard of fighting on the undercard. Some people you heard of, but not really. AJ, what's your parlay for this thing? What do you have for me?
Look, I'm going to go wild on this card because I was doing pretty well. I was three weeks, 3 fights. I pulled out some good money with my picks. This time I'm going like long. I'm going with a long card. So I'm starting off the night with Andre Muniz over Ikram for the win. Then I'm going with Randy Brown, who's about 6 years younger than Dalby, but, I think he'll be able to take this. And, going with Michael Pereira, who's one of the most exciting fighters, in my opinion, could have been something if he really had, like, a little bit more skills. At 31-12, man, this guy is, like, it's hard to go against him, but I'm going with Abus Magomedov on that one.
Yeah, I think Abus wins that one, too.
Yeah, and Michael's going to bring out an interesting fight and whatnot, but
yeah,
it's going to be a tough one. I'm going to be going with David Onama. Chickadee has been gone for a while.
Yeah.
15-4, but this David Onama, very active. Winning some pretty good fights, 13-2. Then, unfortunately, I'm surprised to see Anthony Smith again. I love Anthony Smith, one of my favorite fighters, but it's going to be a tough one against Zhang Ming Yang, 18-6. So I'm going with Zhang. And then I'm going with you, Dave. I'm going with Carlos Prates. I mean, we might be completely wrong on that one, but this guy is a fighting nerd, and this guy is something phenomenal. He comes in and he finishes all his fights. It's going to be tough, man. Ian doesn't do what he does. He's getting knocked out.
There is your crazy parlay, AJ. It's a 6-fight parlay. 20 will get you 1,045.76. It is a huge payout. Huge. 20 gets you $1,000. That'll pay for your Nintendo Switch. Randy Brown minus 280. David Onama minus 180. I bought a Nintendo Switch today. Nintendo Switch 2. Waiting for that thing.
Did you? Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Zhang Ming Yang minus 500. And Carlos Prates plus 100. Andre Muniz plus 380, AJ.
Yeah.
They're
trying to go
underdog.
big. Ikram there was a lot of hype on Ikram, but he's
I think Muniz could win. And then Abus Magomedov plus 115. This is a huge, huge parlay from AJ. 20 gets you 10.45.76. Randy Brown, Onama, Ming Yang, Prates, Muniz, and Abus. You took my parlay and expanded it. I have Prates and Zhang Ming Yang, and then you did that and then added 4 fights to it. 2 of them underdogs.
Haymaker, there's a Haymaker asked if Ian's submission or not late. Listen, man, we went the other way. We actually went with Carlos for the knockout.
Carlos Prates by knockout.
Yeah, and it's hard to go against Ian Garry, but the fight nerds have been phenomenal. They're 24-0 as a team, and I think they're going to make it 25 on Saturday. These guys are the I guess, the stepping in Dagestanians in a sense, man. They're a great team.
It's a new great team out of Brazil. It's like the new Nova União. Remember when Nova União was really hot in the UFC?
Yeah.
Or before them, of course,
American top team.
Brazilian top team.
Always there.
But
Brazilian top team.
No, the gym that Shoot the Box. That was a huge team in Brazil where it was just the thing is in MMA, iron sharpens iron. So if you get a bunch of guys in a room that are really good and they train with each other and they spar with each other, they're all going to get so much better. That's how it's going with Team Khabib, and that's how it seems to be going with these fight nerds. You got John Silva, you got Caio Borralho, and you got Carlos Prates. They're all finishing people. They're all undefeated in the UFC. They're in different weight classes, and they're really coming on strong. I think 2025 is going to be the year of the fight nerds, where MMA as a whole, MMA consciousness really becomes aware of the fight nerds and goes, oh, these guys, when these guys show up, we bet on them. Like now Carlos Prates is an underdog, but it's like if Carlos Prates had this record and was knocking people out, but his name was Carlos Nurmagomedov, he'd be a huge favorite. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's something with the Dagestani guys, when they go and they fight, they're like favored more than they should be because they have the record, but they have the name and they have that aura. Whereas I don't think the aura is there on the fight nerds yet. People haven't really clued in because they all have like Brazilian names. So you're kind of like, oh, by the name, you can't really tell because there's tons of Brazilians in the UFC. But if you clue in and realize, oh no, this isn't just any ordinary Brazilian. This is a fight nerd Brazilian. This is a different team here. They're not part of this team or that team. They're part of this specific team that's kicking ass. People are going to zero in on it and become more focused on these guys. I got a lot of faith in the fighting nerds.
And the fight nerds, man, overall, when you look at them, I mean, you always think of Brazilians obviously having like the predominantly like submission, specialty, but these guys, man, are very, very well-rounded. Stand up or ground, as you saw like last week, which was insane, They're good. It was scary. They're good.
and they're getting better. They're young. They're a young team of killers, and they're training all the time, and they're serious, and they're enjoying themselves, and they're winning fights over and over again in the UFC.
You know, when you think about it, like, you know, the way he submitted Bryce Mitchell, I mean, regardless if you like or hate Bryce Mitchell, which I know you don't like him at all, he's controversial and everything. But
Yeah.
his grappling skills and his wrestling skills were
They're
there.
okay.
Like, to get this guy down, they're okay. But, like, you know what I'm saying? He's a high level wrestler. And you wouldn't think that because a lot of the odds, but a lot of the odds,
He's not a
a lot of
high-level
the,
wrestler.
but well, that's
Bryce
his
Mitchell is
forte,
not a
man.
high-level wrestler.
Well, according
He's
to
not.
a lot of people out there, like sports analysts and whatnot, were talking about like his edge over John Silva with the wrestling and grappling side. But obviously, that was like, you know, not the case on last Saturday, as we saw. I mean, that's what I'm saying. John Silva, the fight nerds, are not just grapplers; they're great stand-up fighters as well. They're a very, very well-rounded team, man.
Bryce Mitchell
You know,
didn't even
but
wrestle in college, man. Get the fuck out of here with that elite high-level wrestler.
he's
a
elite,
nothing.
man. He's up there.
No, he isn't, man. Fuck out of here. That's a disrespect to people who can actually wrestle.
Yeah, I know, dude, but
He was a
that's
high
his
school
thing, man.
wrestler. He wasn't even a state champion. He finished 4th in the state championships as a senior in Arkansas, which is not even like a top wrestling state. State championship. He finished 4th as a senior in the high school state championships. Bryce Mitchell is not a high-level wrestler. Fuck out of here. I'm not accepting that. Because there are real high-level wrestlers that, you know, win the NC2A
Yeah.
Division I National Championship. That's legit. Bryce Mitchell, nothing. He's got no accolades. Don't tell me he's a high-level wrestler. He's got a jiu-jitsu black belt from who knows who. I wouldn't even say he's high-level jiu-jitsu. I haven't seen him pull off anything in the Octagon that would make me think his jiu-jitsu's all that. Nothing.
No, Dave, you know,
He's not that good.
he was 17-3, man, going into that fight with John Silva. You know, there's a reason for that.
He's not good.
Johnny's
Come
like,
on,
Angry
man.
Dave is back.
No, I'm
It
just
brings
saying.
up the ratings
like,
when Dave gets back.
People say high-level wrestler way too much,
Prates-
and you go, yo,
Prates by
he's
knockout.
not. He actually sucks at wrestling. A high-level wrestler would mop the floor with him. Be real. Anyways.
Haymaker by knockout.
Yeah.
Or
Jon
TKO
Jones.
or stoppage.
Jon Jones,
Jon
great
Jones.
MMA fighter. I don't think he's going to fight Tom Aspinall. Apparently, Aspinall's been talking about maybe fighting Cyril Gann at some point in the future because he is losing faith that this fight will ever happen. I think Jon Jones is going to not fight Aspinall and will retire because why wouldn't he? And or he can retire for a bit and come back if, you know, Aspinall becomes worth it. Like if Aspinall fights Cyril Gann and beats him, and then fights somebody else and beats him, maybe Aspinall becomes a big enough star where Jon Jones goes, yeah, I'll fight him now. But right now, his last fight, again, I've said this a million times, but I'm going to say it again. Tom Aspinall's last fight was against Curtis Blades, who's not a draw, and it was in the co-main event of a UFC pay-per-view. And it's not like the main event was a big draw. It was Leon Edwards and Bilal Muhammad. And those guys, Aspinall didn't even go on last on a Bilal Muhammad card. So, is it worth it for Jon Jones to fight this guy? He's a nobody. The UFC has already told you he's a nobody by putting him in a co-main event. When's the last time Jon Jones was a co-main event of anything? Ridiculous. Get out of here. Fight Tom Aspinall. Maybe Tom Aspinall should fight some guys and make himself a worthy contender for Jon Jones. Just because you happen to find yourself with an interim heavyweight championship doesn't mean you're worth Jon Jones' time and effort and legacy on the line. It'd be cool if the UFC
Look.
offered him tons and tons of money to get this fight going, but I don't think they're going to offer the amount of money that they need to offer him to get him to fight Tom Aspinall. So I think Jones is going to sit this one out and wait and see. And like I've been saying for feels like months or years now, Aspinall needs to fight Cyril Gane. That's the fight to make it heavyweight. Has been for a while. Make it. Stop.
You never know, man. According to Chael Sonnen, man, he thinks the fight already has a date between Jones and Aspinall.
That's
so
nice.
you never know.
I hope it does.
Like,
I hope they
Chael
got Jon
Sonnen
Jones
is
to
right.
fight this guy. I think it'd be great if Jon Jones fought him. If they made it worth his while and they made him a good enough offer that he decided to take it, great. Great. It's a cool fight. Jon Jones is great. I'll watch it. I just know that Jon Jones was talking about a crazy amount of money, and I don't know. The UFC's kind of cheap.
Well, that's why you get Netflix to come in. This is the fight you do to get that contract, to get that deal. You get this fight. You get the Netflix deal with the very first fight on Netflix, Jon Jones against Tom Aspinall. You know, a European market, American market, there you go. That's the way you do it, man.
We'll see what happens with the UFC. A lot of negotiations going on. We'll be back, at least I will, tomorrow night with Johnny North for Wrestling Uncensored. We'll be watching SmackDown. We'll be talking about everything from WrestleMania weekend and Nia Jax and Charlotte Flair and all of that, and Raw after Mania, and the people that showed up and the people that didn't show up, and The Rock and everything pro wrestling going down tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern time, right here on the Ringside Report Network. I want to thank all our members in the chat over at join.ringsidereport.net or donate.ringsidereport.net, membership.ringsidereport.net as well. Shout out to CSL, Lorne, Antoinette, Leor. Is Angelo here? Shout out to him anyways. Shout out to everybody checking us out live or later here on the Ringside Report Network. I will see you again tomorrow night for Wrestling Uncensored.
Thanks for sticking with us to the end. We would really appreciate it if you could help us spread the word. Please share this episode on whichever social media platform you use. Add a comment below and consider reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. We are an audience-supported network, so consider becoming a recurring supporter at membership.ringsidereport.net. Check out our website at ringsidereport.net. Hope to see you again next time, and have a good night.